And I would challenge and inspire anybody who is not sure that there is a design world for them in Web3 and blockchain. I would say, please come in. There is, and people are getting ready to challenge the status quo of what this stuff looks like, and it's happening. We've arrived.
Hi guys, welcome to the Creative Block Podcast. I'm Vince Gonzalez. Today we're talking with Jenny Mauric, Creative Director at Blokhaus. Blokhaus is a brand incubator and product lab with a focus on emerging tech. As Creative Director at Blokhaus, Jenny shapes the company's vision and has developed globally recognized Web3 campaigns and brand strategy, including works with Tezos, Gap, Art Basel, South by Southwest, McLaren, Red Bull Racing, Avion, Pantone, Shopify, and more. Previously, as Associate Creative Director at TQ Tezos, Jenny played a pivotal role in building products for the Tezos blockchain. Her expertise in brand design and advertising has made her a sought-after professional in the emerging tech category. Jenny and her team at Blokhaus were the first to bring blockchain to the highly coveted Art Basel event featuring the Tezos blockchain with an exclusive art exhibition. Jenny has a background in the traditional ad agency space with expertise in art direction, design, and extensive experience as a creative director. She is based in Brooklyn, New York. Jenny, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. I know we had a little pre-meeting earlier, and I was anxious to get together today and have the actual real conversation.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So tell me about, you come from a traditional ad space environment and now you're not. Tell me about how you got here and what attracted you to this space.
Yeah, I mean, so when I sort of left the traditional ad world, like Uber, Airbnb, there were all of these disruptors in the space. And I think blockchain, it wasn't Web3 then. We were calling it blockchain. And NFTs were tokens. Like it was just totally like, okay, there's something happening here. There's clearly moving and shaking happening in this direction. And I had a couple of clients that were sort of thinking about this blockchain space. We were at the like lunch and learns at our agencies, people coming in to talk about this, this blockchain technology thing. And my first couple of clients, I was like, this is really the challenge of the moment. And I think I ran towards that. I was in an interesting position being on the creative side of things because it was the first time where a client would come to us and say, we have this problem. We think we need a brand identity. And then what they really needed was product incubation and UX and UI support, and this whole full stack of bringing a product to market and bringing concepts to life. So I just thought, okay, I'm really helpful here. I can help people move quickly and kind of forge a path, using creative thinking and using design thinking. And I just thought, oh, I need to run towards this and go in this direction. So, one thing led to another, and I've been in it for quite a bit now.
That's crazy. Did you see your colleagues see the same thing, or did you feel like you were an anomaly?
I think I was an anomaly because, yeah, no, I was definitely an anomaly because I think that there was this, if you're in the traditional ad world, I think you get really used to, maybe winning awards, pitching awards, being in this space with these like, kind of top tier client rosters. And I just thought, I guess I was also maybe a little younger, and I was like, I'm going in this direction because I see a lot more opportunity. So yeah, at the time, it was not as clearly going to be a thing as it is now. And I think I just thought, why not? And I went for it. But yeah, I was kind of a party of one at the time, I think.
I love that. That's completely inspiring. Now, if I had an ad agency and somebody walks up to me on the street and I say, I have an ad agency, there's that visual in their head that they get. If I
Mm,
say I'm an ad agency in Web3, I think stares are blank. So
yeah.
is with what you guys do, is that too narrow of a description?
I think it's more dynamic. I guess I've found that being agency side in the Web3 or blockchain world, no matter what agency that's been or group that's been, we are constantly going through a rebrand where, the terms that we use to describe what we do are changing, and rightfully so, because finally the words like blockchain or Web3 or even emerging tech is becoming more and more and more narrow. And that's a really great thing because we can look at our site or look at our pitch decks or look at the conversations that we're having with clients and say, okay, that's actually feeling a little bit reductive. What we really mean to say here is X, and we can more adequately discuss what potential is with certain clients. So I think, yeah, Web3 is becoming more narrow, and that's exciting. In some ways, it helps clarify what we do, but in other ways, as I hinted at earlier, it's like, you come to us for a rebrand, and really what you need is a full stack product audit, and let's do the whole kit and caboodle. So there's definitely some language changing about the way that we describe Blokhaus as a product incubator, or sort of this full stack agency that supports these various levels of things. And we're seeing that as well as Web3 sort of disappears, right? The talking about the tech kind of disappears into the background, and what comes forward is actually really interesting utility use cases and products who are going to market with more words than just Web3 in their masthead. So that's really exciting as well.
When you and I talked last time in our brief pre-meeting, this thing came up about, like, I was hearing this conversation about stop calling it Web3, and it was really an interesting observation. I'm hearing this from like my community, stop calling it Web3, and
Yeah.
I never even considered what Web2 was until I got into Web3. I mean, I don't remember people talking about Web2. You know what I mean? So it's fascinating to look at the movement of our verbiage around what this
Yeah.
thing is. And I think part of it is a lot of it is just trying to get people that don't know what the hell it is, having labels to get their minds wrapped around it.
Right. Well, and we'll probably know what Web3 is when we are on to Web4. That's what I
Right.
always say. Tell me
Right.
what
I love it.
Web4 is, and then
Right.
we'll close the book on whatever Web3 is.
You are the first person to officially say out loud in front of me what say Web 4. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
Um,
God
so
knows.
tell me about some of the clients and collaborations and what that looks like as you work with them.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I we really support this full stack of verticals and like places where a brand or a project or a product might be. So sometimes that's supporting a layer one, sometimes that's supporting startups, and using our kind of our bench of deep technical expertise to like, okay, tell me what you do, let's talk about it, let's really get into the tech, and then transform that into messaging that goes out to whatever audience you're reaching. Blockhouse has that side of the business, and then we also are constantly working on products in house, incubating ideas that we have. We just launched something called Gojira Labs. We helped launch with a team, and it's just a gaming vertical. We were just working on another product called Exquisite, which is like a NFT collaboration tool that artists from around the world can just like pop in and do one section of the exquisite corpse and mint this totally new, wild, and wonderful thing. So
Wow.
there's a healthy kind of balance between both, okay, what do clients need? What are we packaging up? And then what are we moving forward as an agency where we're just like, oh, Web3 or whatever this tech is should be going in this direction, and let's go ahead and incubate it ourselves. It makes us sharper, I think, for the clients that we do service at whatever level they're at in their process.
Because you might bring something to the table that they didn't consider.
I think it's often that,
Mm,
and I don't think that that's like even a Web3 or like emerging tech thing. I
right.
think that's consumer behavior in general. Like
Right.
these people who, marketing professionals, creatives, the job is to, create equivalencies and adjacencies in places where people didn't see them before, where, you're so into your product you know exactly what it does, but maybe you haven't thought about it this way to reach an audience that obviously you haven't reached yet because you've come to us to talk about it. So I think there's a lot of that, and it's certainly amplified in this space where people are still trying to define a lot of key terms and figure out how this technology transforms their life.
And what type of, like, if you were to give a description of the type of clients that you're working with, is it, because games, when you talk about games, that's not a guy in a garage, that's a team of people, right? If you talk
Mm-hmm.
about NFTs, it's potentially one person, with a established name already.
So there's the layer ones, right? The like ecosystems, the foundations, the people who are, looking at marketing holistically for on behalf of a really, really wide group, often global, a global team. And then there are people who maybe like it's an exchange or a marketplace or, a DEX or like a product that you might download an app on your phone for. So it really runs the gamut. But I think in terms of what do those teams look like? Some of them are large, some of them are really small. I think that Blockhaus has found a specialty in being able to get to know a team and kind of fit into the gaps where some of these teams can't scale to the size that they need to scale to, or they need this, deep product expert person, but they only need them to be on board for 4 months, maybe not for like, and then they go down and build again, right? So there's sort of this unique engagement with each client that I think has been interesting because it's never the same thing twice.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And how is, when you consider the development of blockchain, AR, VR, AI, uh, you know, we're not just talking about blockchain anymore, and many of these things going forward will overlap.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you approach that when you're thinking about projects in house? How do you consider those items?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of conversation about I guess, in particular. I mean, so before it was AI, it was definitely the metaverse. And this, like,
Yes.
we were all kind of like, are we in it yet? Like, is it happening? Where is it? Are we there? Is it here with us
So
right
where's
now?
our flying cars? Where's the metaverse?
Exactly. So we talk a lot about that. Like, I don't love the term, but like, phygital is coming up a lot. Like, do our brands moving into a space where they want to create like value in a digital ecosystem that doesn't exist yet, but maybe you do have like I don't know, a dupe of your Prada bag or something that you purchase in real life. There's a lot of talk about
Wow.
um, the metaverse like being this much more robust kind of subscription where you're really rewarding people who are fans and like want to go to that extra place with you. So we talk about that a lot. Um, and then with AI, I feel like a lot of our Slack conversations are like, "Whoa, it's moving so incredibly quickly." To this, question around truth and what's real and how we're going to identify what's real, how we're going to verify that the voice recording of our founder is actually the founder who is who's given us this speech. So there's a lot of those questions I think that are being mulled over, and we've also found that clients want to talk about it. I think
Yeah.
there's this sense that something is changing and that they maybe need to be moving into some kind of a phase of their business, but it's not clear yet. They're nervous about it, and they mostly just want to talk about it. In terms of like the tools of Blockhouse employees trying out different AI methodologies, we're really open about it and we try them. We just did a series of presentations where everybody had to do a persuasive pitch and somehow use Midjourney or Chat GPT or something to make their argument. So we try hard to keep people exploring the edges of some of these innovations so that we can have a intelligent conversation about it as these things just evolve and change so quickly.
That's pretty smart. I love that idea because it gets everybody familiar. I think, even my challenge is I'm not a dev, I'm not a coder, I'm never
Yeah.
going to be. But I wanted to have the verbiage. I wanted to be able to have an intelligent conversation with you, and so it's put me in situations where I was like, well, let's try it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things, with no ROI in mind, just the experience of doing it is really,
Yeah.
what was the big draw.
We did. So I'll tell you about a branding assignment that we did. It was for Exquisite, so it was like an
Hmm.
internal product. And we had been developing this tool for over a year. So that's like the engineering and the like UI and UX, and rewriting the site 100 times to make all of the cues make sense and the user be able to follow this journey and this tool. And we reached this point where it's like, okay, well, when there are exquisite corpses on the site, you're going to understand what the product does. The product allows you to anonymously collaborate with another artist by each of you taking the head, the body, or the legs of this single image that's minted on the blockchain. But we were in this like classic creative dilemma of like the product sells itself. The product makes a lot of sense, but nobody's used the tool yet. The tool's not done yet. So how do we then create a visual system that expresses what the product does? So we were like drawing, we were like, passing back like, scanned notes to each other, basically, like so analog. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to have to use it one day. Today's going to be the day. Let's play with Midjourney. So it was like myself and two of my colleagues on Google Meet just querying Discord for like these ridiculous things and kind of negotiating with it about, okay, what can we like take out in Photoshop? How can we start constructing something that is even slightly visually appealing? We had this whole conversation about, oh my God, this looks so AI, it looks so vector and fake, like, but it really just like blew the lid open of, okay, like let's force ourselves to use this tool and talk about what it's actually delivering. So we used Midjourney for a project, and now we just query dumb stuff and get bad ideas out of our head. But we look for ways that we can use it without ruining our visual aesthetic as an
Yeah, I love it.
agency.
That's cool. I'm a big fan of bad ideas.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
Audiences respond s- in strong ways when there's a good narrative. And so, do you guys have that conversation in house about, okay, cool, this looks great and can be done, but is there a story attached to this that consumers will jump on board with?
Totally. Well, I think like, you know, you get the like, can you make it look pretty a
Yeah,
lot, right? From people who are not artists or creatives or designers. And I have heard it enough to let it roll off me. And I don't even think about it anymore. I think at one time that was like, oh my God, I'm not just making things look pretty for you. I'm doing exactly what you're saying, which is create narrative and create story and create lore and actually make creative decisions that are based in logic and reason. I think when pitching client work in particular, you're threading this needle between um, what you've identified the audience needs to understand, hear, and feel about a product, and then also what the internal story or narrative for a brand and for founders and for stakeholders needs to be. So it's all about story, and I always go back to this idea that it's not subjective and it's not just like, oh, I mean, you can have a feeling like, oh, I like that one over this one, but when you're able to tell a story and actually use visual systems to build logic towards what you want your consumer to experience, a lot of those, I don't know which one to pick, kind of dissolves for you. And that's my job as a creative director. I don't want people to feel like they're out to sea trying to pick which one like looks the best. They all look great. We're talking about concept. We're talking about story. We're talking about standing out in a marketplace. And when you start having that conversation, you see clients like actually take a deep breath of like, oh, okay, I don't need to know, what all these visual systems mean in the grand scheme of design thinking and design principles to really sink my teeth into what's being presented to me. And I
Hmm.
think that's, that can be kind of difficult in this space because not everybody has tons of experience working with an agency like Blokhaus. But that story of visual identity is something that we always go back to as a way to just have a fruitful conversation, both with a client and then ultimately with a consumer who touches the product and experiences all of the thinking that goes into a visual identity system, a messaging hierarchy, all of the above.
Hmm. That's crazy. And I'm just curious, in the last like 5, 8 years, like if you imagine you working 8 years ago, looking at consumer trends versus now, has that changed for you how you do that?
Yes. Well, I used to look at consumer trends, like at least
Ah,
at least for visual stuff. Um, Audiences are so tricky because audiences tell you that they like what they've already seen before. So for design, that means that you're going to have a bunch of blands, right? Like brands that all look the same. For Web3, that means that you can close your eyes and put together the mood board of what blockchain and crypto and Web3 look like. Um, so yeah, I think I've totally changed my feeling on that. It used to be very, very like audience driven. This is what's playing. I mean, 8 years ago was the first time that we were able to like test digital ads against each other and be like,
yeah.
well, this one is performing better. And I think that's all worthy. Data is great. You got to have it. But I also think like myself and many of my colleagues and just like the business in general has a much more sober approach to how you use audience, how you use data, and how you see trends. Because there are so many brands, there are more brands than ever. There are so many, like, ideas entering the zeitgeist. So we have a more sober approach to it that I think that we did 8 years ago.
When we're talking about Web3 technology and the influences in the creative process in these campaigns, what does that look like for you?
Well, a lot of the time we get a brief problem
Hmm.
from a client, and I have almost no idea what is going on. And it's like I do, like I have a basic understanding, right? But it's like, oh my gosh, this is a huge question. Sometimes it's something I've never heard of before because it's that brand new. It's that emerging.
Wow.
And so I think one of the most interesting things in my job is how closely the creative team works with technical expertise marketers in our team and also engineers. Sometimes, we'll pitch over a bunch of creative ideas of wouldn't it be cool if a user at like say Art Basel could do this? If they could live mint
Hmm.
something just like right off the wall, and then we think, uh-oh, do you think that that technology exists to do it? And so then it's like we have this idea of a gallery experience in which a person is doing X, and then we've got to take it back to the engineering team and to highly technical people to then figure out, can we do that? Like, what are the edges of that? What would that look like? So I think the creative process just being highly, highly iterative with so many other Blockhouse team members and technical people at Blockhouse is really unique to this agency environment and the creative process at large. I joke, and I don't know if it's a good one, but sometimes I joke like, don't tell me too much at the beginning because I tend to get really stressed out about like, okay, but is that technically feasible? Like, can we do it? And oftentimes it's like, no, just live in the realm of possibility for 1 second, then we'll talk about it. So there's a little bit of that negotiation with myself and my team as we try to approach the creative process and come up with, interesting activations and solutions for clients of all kinds.
I love that. It's almost like working backwards a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. And it's interesting because a lot of times there would be this complaint that, there's a reason why technical people aren't creatives, but it almost seems like there is a better collaboration with creatives and the technical head now because
Oh,
they both
totally.
really need each other so badly.
Totally. No, I think all those edges have become way less sharp and the territories are blending so much more. And you get on both sides, you get good at interacting. And that's
Hmm.
talk about like I mean that's the space that Blockhouse is in, right? It's like it's creative people interacting with highly technical people It's people who can tell you everything there is to know about a blockchain, but don't know a lot about marketing. So there's this like meeting people where they are, or like making the expectation clear so that nobody feels like panicked in that conversation is half the battle. And then
Yeah.
people are really willing to play ball, and highly technical people are crazy creative. Like
Yeah.
they see a world that we do not, and
Yeah.
for that our ideas are made possible. So it's a lovely and really exciting collaboration and way of approaching creative challenges.
That's cool. And so what's on your plate now? What are you guys excited about working on now?
I think for the first time, Blockhaus is supporting all the way up and down the stack. And that's so exciting because it's like Web3 going into events, it's Web3 going into galleries, it's um, blockchain projects entering these spaces that they haven't entered into before. And I know that this sounds kind of nebulous and like I'm not answering the question, but I think what we have going on now is um, projects that are entering spaces that they've never thought to enter before. It's going much more mainstream. They're very useful, and they're showing up, from a marketing perspective across all these different verticals, like in person, digital builds. I think for the first time, we've got like a portfolio of things happening at once that are like, it's truly the full stack. So that's exciting. And then we're still working on incubating these products that we've worked on in house. So, we've got some of the gaming stuff with Gojira Labs, which is really exciting. Exquisite. We're still, minting corpses on that, and asking ourselves the AI question constantly, which is taking up a lot of our Slack DMing time as we share like whatever crazy latest revelation has come about. So we stay busy.
Yeah. And going forward, I mean, there's what we know, right? So we can kind of see uh, a horizon line with things that we know, but we also have to embrace the fact that some of this stuff will change in ways we didn't consider, and there's
Hmm.
going to be new things on the horizon that we didn't even know you could do. So,
Yeah,
when you think about creating projects for the future, I'm sure that's, something you guys have in the back of your mind as well.
totally. And I think it's this, you know, I guess there's like a running towards it, even when you might feel kind of tired and like, oh, okay, gotta like look into this one now, or like, do I want to know, or do I want to, my instinct is to say, screw AI, this is horrible, it's the end of the world, and then it's like, okay, I have to go check out what the boundaries of this thing are, and actually, um, keep on educating myself and ourselves, and running towards these things, even if sometimes maybe we don't want to.
Yeah, we have to. So tell me about your collaboration and presence at Art Basel.
Yeah, so Art Basel was it was such a professionally gratifying experience for me. I think in part because we were going to Art Basel's for like a year. So starting in November, I guess must have been, yeah, end of November 2021 to December 2022, we were going around the world bringing Tezos creators to these different shows. So, in 2021, we started with a conversation of what's an NFT. This was at the height of like, what is an NFT? What does it stand for? What can it be? The market was booming. Everybody just thought, okay, like there's money to be made here, but what is an NFT artist? What's a generative artist? And we were answering all those questions. So, at that first show, the memories are being on the floor. We had Mario Klingemann, who's a generative artist. We created this hexagon where people could actually step up to it, scan a QR code, and live mint a piece or stop the screen and mint a piece of this kind of animation that was happening on screen. Um, and we were answering the question constantly, what's an NFT, with, okay, go mint one, go do it. So for us, that was, you're creating a gallery experience and a narrative about the art in its own right. You're asking people to interact by actually creating a wallet and minting a piece. And that's sort of where the conversation ended. And that was a huge one to have in 2021. This was like a lot to bite off and chew on for our audience. Art Basel is really cool because you kind of meet some of the same people. There are people that go to a lot of the shows, like maybe they go to Miami and they go to Paris. So we took the show on the road, kind of evolving the narrative and the story for our audience. I think when we went to Paris, we were doing the live minting thing, talking about an NFT, but also answering the question of display. So like, what do people do with it, right? Like people still print them out. Here we had a Zancan print hanging in the gallery alongside a digital execution. So we sort of had that layer of the conversation emerge. And then, a year later, when we returned to Miami, we actually, so it's called Performance and Code, and we actually displayed up on, in big projections, live rarity scores of these pieces that were being minted. So for those who don't know, in generative artwork, there's all this data that comes along with it, like certain qualities that are in the piece that can be measured, and it all contributes to a rarity score. So typically a collection, an artist might say, I'm going to mint 500 pieces from this collection. Well, at the end of it, the rarity score of certain pieces has changed because more have been minted. Maybe some features come out as being more rare than others, whatever it may be. So we kind of put the Art Basel audience face to face with this idea of having rarity or perceived rarity expressed in real time. This idea of data behind artwork. And whether that changed audience perception or didn't at all, right? Like, does it drive the market, or is it actually, conversations among artists and fans and patrons who just identify something that they all like love that the algorithm didn't see and doesn't care about, right? And I think it's often the latter. So we kind of evolved this conversation where only a year later, we weren't answering the question, what's an NFT? And so talk about, just like, changing things in real time, right? I mean, that was an incredible place to be, to sort of have a front row seat to this evolving conversation with this audience in particular. So we were really proud of that work back in Miami.
That's exciting. And what did you learn from the reactions?
I always say, like, in 2021, describing to an art crowd what an NFT was, you were met with some frustration.
Yeah.
Like they were like, okay, so it's like a digital JPEG. Like I got it. Okay, I know what an NFT is, but still, like, tell me more. When we went to Basel that year, they were saying, okay, I know what an NFT is. Now the question is it good? Like, is the art good? Is the art, can we consider this art? Do we like it? Would we want to hang this on our walls? And then in December in Miami, the conversation was like maybe just like some more curiosity and this interest in exposing what art collectors in these marketplaces see and feel and have access to. So yeah, the conversation certainly evolved and the reception evolved. I think in a positive way.
And what do you guys think about NFTs as, access or a ticket or, in the smart contract? Is that
Great.
something you guys explore?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are so many things that NFTs can solve, like the Ticketmaster stuff, right? Like all this could be an NFT to get in the door, or NFTs to unlock additional fan experiences. I think, as NFTs scale and they just become more, more flexible, there's a lot of potential. The other part of that is just like the place where they're housed, right? So like looking at NFTs, not as places that exist just on exchanges, but like you said, NFTs being connected to a wallet that then unlocks some kind of an app or an experience of verification, right? So there's kind of this added human user experience step where, that app that you use better feel like every other ticketing app. Otherwise, it's going to be a huge pain to try to pull up my wallet address, my NFT, log in, and share it. So it's in that space that I think things are about to explode. Things are about to become so user friendly. They're about to feel just like, using your iPhone,
Apple Wallet or something.
your Apple Watch, your Apple, whatever it is. I think that whole part of it is about to explode. And only then are we going to see that mass adoption utility in the real world of ticketing and, fan clubs and all of these things where artists, performers, venues are saying, we can do this. We can do this without a couple of middlemen. Let us just do it. So I think that's coming. We talk about that a lot.
That's cool. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, well, it makes it make sense to people. But I think what's also coming is we care, like right now an NFT is really coveted and soon it'll just be the unlock key. It'll like there'll be the coveted things that you're really protecting and holding on to in this asset that you're happy to own. And you might do things like put it on a t-shirt or print it out on your wall or still do all those things or just have a digital display in your home. But then there's this movement of NFTs are faster, more scalable, and just in your wallet to unlock or have that peer-to-peer relationship with an artist, and you don't go back and look at it or really experience it as a one of one art. It's just you're moving through life gathering these things that allow you to unlock. So it's kind of nebulous, but I think it's really fun to think about.
It's totally fun. I just bought a book called Web3 Marketing. Amanda, forget her
You
last
told
name.
me about this.
Right. And the reason I bought the book is because it came with an NFT. So, it was like, I haven't even read the book yet. So it was kind of one of those things where I was like, it was clunky. I had a hard time,
Yeah.
but I did it and I own it. And I'm glad I went through the process, and
Well,
plus
and
there's
it
the book.
yeah, and it begs the question, like, for the author, like, what can the author unlock more directly with the fan who's purchased the book and has the NFT and now has a relationship with them. It's a big, big, wide open world, and I think that we're not going to recognize this conversation in 4 months, and that's really exciting. That's like what's
Yeah.
fun about
Yeah.
this space.
Totally exciting. Totally exciting. When
Yeah.
you're looking at the landscape of individuals, groups, DAOs, playing in this space, what have you seen that where these groups are having success?
Yeah. So I think things are shifting, and an audience for just a user experiencing a product on their phone, on their computer, or just in their day to day, that user is coming to the forefront for some of these products. And that's really exciting when we think about visual identity and brand messaging and all of the above, because they're starting to look so different. Um, I we've been challenging clients like, if you want to sort of leave behind the reputation of some of this world, go out there and look different. Look like a product that your audience maybe doesn't already use, but is something in that world. Step away from the space theme. Step away from the Google image searching blockchain and using any of that visual language, and really challenge the way that you show up because people are ready for it. But that immediate turn off of, oh, like this is not for me, this is some blockchain thing, is very real. And that's not to say that that theme or that look is not right. There are plenty of clients who should look like the world that they're playing in if that's their
Yes.
world. But I am seeing this emergence of brands where I'm like, ooh, they're doing something in Web3. They don't look like Web3 at all. And I think that that is such an exciting like new era that we're entering into. And I for a while it was before Blockhouse had such a great body of work, I would try to, recruit people, come freelance, come design at the creative department. And I would challenge and inspire anybody who is not sure that there is a design world for them in Web3 and blockchain. I would say, please come in. There is, and people are getting ready to challenge the status quo of what this stuff looks like, and it's happening. We've arrived. It's happening, I promise. So it's a very rich creative territory, and things are changing for the better.
I love that. I love that. Well said. Well said. And on that note, I'm going to close it here. But Jenny, thank you so much for your time. This has been such a great chat. I was really looking forward to it. And next time you guys come out to LA, find me and we'll continue the conversation.
This was such a pleasure. Thanks, Vince.